Hey guys, welcome back to One Candle Paranormal Case Files, here with your hosts, Marcus D.
and Vic Whateley.
And guys, we heard you. You hit the likes threshold that we asked you to do, and so here, we're going to give you the video you asked for. Roll up your windows as we're going through a sketchy part of town as we talk about the Bandage Man.
The Bandage Man is a paranormal entity of an unknown type but specific form. It appears to be humanoid, wrapped head to toe in bandages, and possessed of a gait that would imply mutilated limbs. It has a horrid stench and the ability to move exceptionally quickly. Witnessing the Bandage Man is a precursor to just one thing: sudden and intense violence, as it's known to charge up to vehicles parked or slow moving and will attempt to force the doors open or break out the windows in an attempt to viciously drag the driver or occupant of the vehicle out of the car. What it wishes to do with him is unknown, because the stories that make it to us are by the people who escape, although they do report that the damage to the vehicle is sustained, not just some sort of phantom damage that miraculously disappears afterwards.
Okay guys, so who is or what is the Bandage Man? Well, it's an entity that attacks people around Cannon Beach near the intersection of Highway 101 in Oregon. He appears suddenly, usually in isolated areas around there, and usually around young couples that are going there to do, well, the things young couples do when they're alone.
And he knows what you did last summer, and he's returned from Camp Crystal Lake in order to exact his revenge every Halloween as he hunts down his sister. Right?
Well, kinda. What this entity is, it would classify as a lover's lane sort of entity. Something that haunts areas where, teenagers go to park and make out and be away from the parents. It's a form of modern cautionary tale, so it kind of fits in that whole horror genre line.
Kind of where you get the stereotype of don't do it in a movie or else you're probably gonna die.
Yep.
So are we sure that this isn't just some deranged serial killer in Oregon? Are we sure?
I don't think it is.
To me, this sounds like a serial killer, because serial killers like to target one specific area, and the Bandage Man is predominantly seen mostly in this particular area in Oregon.
And yeah, although there are a lot of unsolved mysteries in Oregon, well, there's not a peak of them in that specific area. And if there was a serial killer in that area, particularly one that's been persistent for around 40 years, you would think that there would be a rise there.
Serial killers like to target a specific audience. I mean, this is a humanoid guy. This kind of looks a lot like just a guy, and he's going after specific types of people. He's going after couples in a car that are doing the deed. That just screams serial killer to me.
And it is true that serial killers will often target a particular group to kill and punish. And, sexually promiscuous kids kind of fit the sort of role for many sort of serial killers, but I still don't think there's enough evidence to imply that it's a serial killer. We have a lot of bizarre sort of things going on. Serial killers are usually subtle, following a very specific plan that ensures they don't get caught. This guy, he just seems to come running out of nowhere, start punching his way into a car, and on top of that, he's spotted doing weird things like eating dogs. I feel like if this was a serial killer, he would have been caught by now. Also, how do you explain the bizarre gait?
I don't know, maybe he's just a guy that's got a medical condition and that's why he just walks with a funny gait. I mean, and the whole thing with the dogs, it's very common for sociopaths and serial killers to target small animals whenever they're just starting off.
True, but that usually happens when they're younger, when they're still figuring out how they're going to do their killing. This has been persistent along the myths.
Well, what about the Zodiac Killer? The Zodiac Killer, he taunted police. He wasn't real quiet about it too. And John Wayne Gacy, he dressed like a clown, out in public, being creepy and weird.
Yeah, but if John Wayne Gacy was running after people punching in windows and things like that, I think he would have gotten caught pretty early on.
Yeah, but what if these particular sightings of the Bandage Man are just ones in which people get away? There's tons of unsolved murders that are in the Oregon area. What if the stories of the Bandage Man are just people that have gotten away from a deranged serial killer?
Like he's just killing them and making the bodies disappear?
Yeah.
It's possible, but I don't see anything that indicates that would be the situation we're dealing with. Yeah, in certain ways he does kind of sound like a serial killer, but not a real world serial killer. Not like Holmes or BDK or anyone like that. It's more like a movie serial killer.
So he does know what you did last summer.
Oh my god.
So okay, then if he's not a serial killer, then what is he, like a deranged ghost?
Well, most of the lore would indicate he's a ghost, or at least that's what the myth is. But I don't think so. It doesn't really mesh up with a ghost encounter. If anything, it's almost more like a violent cryptid encounter, where someone's in an isolated place, they spot it, it drives them off, and they just leave. And beyond that, if he's a ghost, why is he trying to punch his way into vehicles? I mean, ghosts are pretty well recognized for being able to move through objects. It's one of the, characteristic things of being a ghost.
Or it's something that kids make up after they wrecked their car and been doing the deed. Like, yeah, there's this guy out there, and he was covered in bandages, and he tried to kill us. He was out there. That's how the window got broke dead. Yeah, deranged guy at bandages.
A lot of parts of this story seem very folkloric. Like, this could just be a localized tale. I mean, it's very hard to find information on. There's very few encounters, but the population there knows the story, and they will recount it in almost the exact same way every time.
One of the predominant things in the story is talk about how he has this weird gait and how he's all these bandages. But a lot of times when you have folklore stories about people with these distinctive features, there's a reason. Like, there's usually a reason in the tale for why they act this way.
And there are a few stories indicating that he could have been someone who was mutilated in a sawmill accident, but they're not very consistent, they're not very thorough. It's not what I would call a true lore background to this sort of entity, which once again makes me think it's a little more like a cryptid sighting. But I mean, it's clearly not a cryptid, it's clearly a person like in bandages. It's not like Bigfoot's out there, got wounded, wrapped up in bandages, and just been hanging out in there for 40 years.
For me, in conclusion, I don't necessarily think this is a paranormal entity that's out in Oregon. I think this could be a serial killer that's had some of his victims escape. It's a very localized legend. It's a very specifically targeted audience. There's history of animal mutilation. To me, it just fits the category of some sort of a serial killer that's out in Oregon.
For me, one thing I'm fairly certain on is this is no flesh and blood man. But I'm not saying it's a real paranormal entity either. I think it's either one of two things: that this is a locally grown, very well believed and well loved myth that's circulated through the generations and has been passed down from family member to family member. Or we're dealing with something that doesn't fit the normal modus operandi of a paranormal creature. It doesn't seem to be a cryptid, but it kind of acts like a cryptid. It seems to be more like a ghost, but at the same time, it doesn't act in that sort of way. I don't know what I'd classify it as, but I'd say most likely, this one's probably a myth. As much as it would be fascinating that there's this peculiar paranormal entity that has such explosive responses to people encountering it, something straight out of like a Silent Hill game, well, this just sounds so much like folklore to me, and so much like a well-loved story, that I think that probably really is what it is.
What do you guys think? Leave it in the comments below. Hey guys, thank you for checking out this episode of One Candle Paranormal Case Files. Thank you guys so much for actually hitting that like button for us to be able to do this video. We so much appreciate bringing you this type of content.
And if you really enjoyed it, make sure to hit that subscribe so you can get more of our content.
Yep, and just keep hitting that like button because it really helps out the channel. But don't forget, keep believing.
Because we'll keep listening.